Don't leave me, mother. Don't leave me, mother. Don't leave me, mother. Hello, everyone. I'm Tolga. Today, I want to share the hardest and most real story of my life. This is the story of my beloved Mother Ice Hatton's fight for survival against a ruthless illness, and the struggle we carried as a family to keep her alive. All scenes in this video were recreated using AI animation. Due to technical limitations, some character faces may unintentionally change during the animation. This is not a part of the story. It is only a visual inconsistency. I sincerely apologize for this issue, and I trust you will focus on the heart of the message and emotion. Sometimes life changes with a single phone call, and sometimes the absence of one person feels heavier than the noise of the entire world. If you're watching this, I only ask one thing from you. Hug your loved ones before it's too late. Because time waits for no one, and life is so short, I pray that Allah grants you all first health, then faith, then peace and abundance. Please keep me and my family in your prayers.
Tolga is a man devoted to his family, living with his mother and father. When the doorbell rings in the morning, he sees that his older sister has come to visit. A brief conversation begins at home, and just then, his mother says that her arm is in unbearable pain. Tolga, with the same insistence, gets slightly angry and says, "I told you 10 times to go to the hospital, but you didn't listen to me. You go when my sister tells you to." His sister takes their mother's hand and takes her to the hospital. Tolga sees them off and starts to wait. After an hour, he gets into his friend's car, and they head towards the city center. After 10 minutes on the road, Tolga calls his sister and asks, "How is Mom?" His sister's voice is bad. In a trembling and sad tone, she says, "The situation is very bad." Tolga's heart freezes in an instant. When he asks, "What happened?" his sister tells the truth in a single sentence. "Mom has cancer, and it's the final stage." As soon as she says it, Tolga freezes, his heart tightens, his breath catches. He doesn't even notice his friend looking at him in shock from the driver's seat. Tears stream from his eyes, his voice breaks, and he begins to sob uncontrollably. When his friend panically asks, "What happened? Tell me too!" Tolga sobs, "My mom has lung cancer, the final stage." This time, silence fills the car. Tolga can't sit still. Even though they are in a car, he wants to open the door and run the long way home. He seems to ignore his friend's pleas to stop, calm down, but he stays in the car. Counting every minute, he calls his sister, asking again and again, "When will you be back?" Even though he knows the answer, he waits with hope. He even calls his brother, whom he hasn't seen in a long time and doesn't like, just to tell him the truth. His brother answers the phone with an arrogant, "Yes?" Before Tolga can say anything, he says, "I didn't call to hear your voice. There's bad news." When his brother asks, "What happened?" Tolga says in one breath, "Mom has cancer. She's very sick." His brother screams, "What are you saying?" The storm in Tolga's heart has now spread into the house, the car, the rain, and all the silence.
Tolga, after learning about his mother's illness, calls his girlfriend and says, "My mom has cancer, and it's in the final stage." His girlfriend whispers in shock, "I can't believe it." Tolga's world has now collapsed. His hands tremble, his chest tightens. He can no longer fit inside the silence of the house, and calls his sister into the kitchen, saying, "Tell me everything. What happened?" His sister walks into the kitchen and begins explaining slowly. "We went to the physical therapy department. The doctor suspected something and sent us to the chest disease specialist. The moment the specialist saw her, he understood. He called me outside and said, 'It's bad. Your mother has cancer.' I didn't even know how to react. I couldn't cry. I held myself so she wouldn't suspect anything or understand." Tolga's eyes fill with tears, his heart twists, and the clock shows 8 p.m. Tolga then calls a wealthy family friend and tells them the situation exactly as it is. A warm voice answers from the other side. We already know. We'll do whatever we can. And they add, Tolga, we are people of faith. Destiny belongs to God. Whatever God says will happen, but we will do everything in our power. Tolga cries quietly, holding on to the last spark of hope inside him, trusting them deeply. For the first time in his life, he feels this helpless, because Tolga is a man who has lived only for his mother, father, and their sweet parrot, Kaki, a man who never married or worked abroad just so he would never leave his mother alone. The hour reaches 9 p.m. when his brother calls, his voice full of panic. Bring mom to Ankara immediately. Tolga tries to find an ambulance, but they are too expensive. Time passes quickly. Midnight arrives. The wealthy family steps in, calls a hospital, and finds an ambulance at a much more affordable price. Tolga sends his location. The ambulance arrives at 3 a.m., and the journey finally begins. Everyone in the house wakes his mother up, and his sister says, Mom, my brother called. We are going to Ankara. His mother gets angry and says, What Ankara? I'm tired. They all beg her, trying to convince her gently. She now begins to suspect something and insists, I'm fine. Nothing's wrong. But still she gets into the ambulance. The back is arranged for her to lie down. His sister sits beside her, and Tolga takes the front seat next to the driver. The rain still falls outside, a heavy, quiet sadness travels with them along the road as they move forward into the night.
Tolga, together with his mother and sister, has now begun a 9-hour ambulance journey. The weather is cold and rainy. The date is October 21st, 2024, and Tolga has engraved this moment into his mind, knowing he will never forget it as long as he lives. By 9:30 a.m., they are approaching Ankara Etlik City Hospital, where his brother is already waiting for them. Tolga's phone rings. It is his brother calling, asking, Where are you? And Tolga answers, 5 minutes away. We're getting close to Etlik City Hospital. His brother says, All right, I'll wait for you in front of oncology, and ends the call. 5 minutes later, they arrive at the hospital. It is overwhelmingly crowded. There is barely room to step. His brother meets the ambulance at the entrance, embraces his mother, kisses her hand, and says, Welcome. His mother still has no idea, unaware of her diagnosis, unaware of the cancer. His brother speaks to the doctor privately, saying, Please don't tell her yet. She will learn eventually, but when the time is right. The doctor nods with understanding, since all paperwork was already prepared earlier so that no suspicion would fall on her face. They take their mother upstairs for admission. The doctor greets her at the door with a smile and says, Welcome, Aunt Ice. And Aunt Ice replies politely, Thank you, my daughter. Glad to be here. She feels the rush around her, but shows nothing. Even if doubt quietly touches her heart, she remains silent. Tolga, his sister, and brother sit beside their mother and begin talking about home, the town, ordinary things, asking, How is everything, Mom? How's the hometown? Trying to lift her spirit. Tolga's heart is shattered, but he hides it. Every time he looks at his mother, his soul melts. It is not his face that cries, but his heart that aches. Not his voice, but his spirit that breaks. Yet he holds himself together. Now Tolga's hospital days have begun. He and his sister want to stay as companions, but the room only allows one caregiver. Tolga cannot stay overnight beside his mother. He walks back and forth through the hospital corridors, sometimes goes down to the cafeteria, watches the patients, still holding a small piece of hope inside him, constantly praying for his mother and for all the sick. When night falls, he quietly enters his mother's room, sees that she is asleep, his sister sitting silently beside her. Tolga whispers, I'm around. Call me if anything happens, and leaves the room, knowing he will now spend the night sleeping on the hospital benches. Sleeping on benches is hard, but Tolga does not leave the hospital for days. Sometimes sleeping on benches, sometimes on chairs, sometimes in the prayer room, spending his hours waiting beside his mother, wandering through hospital halls, and praying to God, learning helplessness deeper than he ever had in his life. One night he cries like his chest will split, raising his hands to the sky and pleading, God, I have never asked you for anything before, never wished for anything. But tonight I am asking, let my mother live. Give my lifetime to her. Take every good deed I've ever done as payment. Take them all from me, but let my mother live. His voice shakes. It is not his body that kneels, but his soul, not his tears that speak, but his heart, asking not with desperation, but surrender. waiting not with pain, alone but with belief. Tolga's phone never stops ringing. Friends, relatives, and family acquaintances constantly call, asking, "How is your mother, Tolga?" And Tolga tells everyone that she is fine, adding, "We need prayers. Please pray. God knows whose prayer will reach whom." Asking for prayers not only for his mother, but for all the patients. After hanging up, he goes up to his mother's hospital room, talks with her for a while, then goes down to the hospital cafeteria to drink tea and eat. Back then his financial situation was good. He works in software development and also handles social media projects, but he doesn't know it yet. Hard days are waiting ahead. 10 days have passed in the hospital. Tolga now deeply misses taking a shower and eating home-cooked meals. His older brother, whom he doesn't like, calls him and says, "Come stay with us." But Tolga never accepts. He doesn't even want to see his face. Only talks to him because of his mother. He still leaves the hospital to take a bath at a public hammam. Then eats at a restaurant, but every single day the expenses increase seriously, and his savings have dropped dramatically. When evening comes, he asks his mother, "Should I bring you soup?" His mother says, "Yes, bring it, my son." And Tolga goes to the restaurant to buy her favorite soup, feeding her with his own hands. Every evening at 6 p.m., she drinks the soup he brings and prays for him, saying, "May God be pleased with you, my son." Still unaware of the truth, still not knowing about the cancer. Sometimes his mother tells him, "Go back home. Tolga, you are exhausted. You look miserable." But Tolga refuses by saying, "Never. Mom, you will be discharged next week. I'm staying." Waiting another difficult week that feels not like days, but like a lifetime. Finally, that long, heavy week ends, and his mother moves to his brother's house in Ankara. Tolga returns to his hometown home. The moment he steps inside, a deep silence falls. The house feels incomplete, empty, like something vital is missing. He sits down and cries quietly, staring at the corner where his mother always used to sit. Their sweet parrot, Kaki, is at his girlfriend's house during those days. Tolga goes there, hugs his parrot, kisses him, relieving the longing in his heart, then turns to his girlfriend and says, "Thank you for taking care of Kaki, for calling me, for being beside me in my hardest time." Hugging her with sincere gratitude, even if his heart is in pain again the moment he remembers the truth. He lives in the same house with his father and parrot, but his relationship with his father hasn't been good for years. Still, Tolga is a quiet, self-contained man who carries deep love inside. Life has shaken him hard, but he never closed his heart to humanity or to prayer. Tolga had started thinking deeply and for long hours. He kept asking himself, "What would I do if something happened to my mother?" One morning when he woke up, he felt worse than ever. There was no sound in the house, only a heavy silence. In the past, his mother would prepare breakfast and call out, "Come on, get up. Do you know what time it is?" But now, none of those voices remained. Tolga sat on his bed and broke into tears. His mother never left his mind, not even for a moment. He had left her in Ankara at his brother's house and returned alone to his hometown. He wanted to go outside, talk to his friends, laugh, and distract himself a little. He met them, but he couldn't do it. His mother's absence burned inside him. He gathered information about lung cancer constantly and researched every possibility, including herbal treatments. With hope in his heart, he searched night after night to learn what needed to be done. But there was one truth Tolga did not know. His mother had far less time left than he imagined. He also couldn't focus on his work anymore. His customers had drifted away, payments he was expecting never arrived, and money owed to him remained unpaid. He had fallen into a deep void. He ate his meals outside, and the weight of the household was now slowly shifting onto his shoulders alone. His father was an alcoholic, irresponsible, helpless, and dark-hearted man. Tolga hated both him and his brother. He didn't even want to see their faces. Yet throughout his mother's illness, he said nothing to anyone and carried everything inside. He video called his mother every single day. "How are you? How is your health?" he would ask, talking gently before turning the camera toward Kaki, the Jocko parrot his mother had raised. She had taught Kaki 3 prayers and thousands of words. When Tolga wanted to send the parrot to Ankara, his mother said, "Don't send him, I worry about you." Because she knew Tolga couldn't live without Kaki. The parrot was his entire world. Days passed quickly. Every morning, Tolga woke up crying uncontrollably. For the first time in his life, he was away from his mother for this long, and the pain felt unbearable. He didn't go to Ankara because his brother lived there, and Tolga didn't even want to stand at his door. So he embraced his mother from afar and sent his love through the screen. Tolga continued researching, hoping, and fighting for his mother. Hope was the only thing keeping him standing. Hope born from his endless love for her.
Tolga was making soup for the first time in his life, and he was preparing it especially for his mother. Knowing that bone marrow soup was healing, he bought marrow bones from the butcher. He boiled them slowly and carefully, and after the soup cooled, he placed it in the freezer and waited for it to solidify. Then he sent it to his mother in Ankara on the very first flight. When his mother tasted the soup, she loved it and said with a smile, "Bless your hands, my son." It had been 3 months since her diagnosis. During the treatment process, his mother occasionally went to the hospital for chemotherapy and radiation therapy, and after each session, she returned to stay at Tolga's brother's house in Ankara. Tolga, however, stayed in his own home. He never went to his brother's house and didn't even want to. When the chemotherapy cycle ended, his mother finally returned to her own home. Tolga was beyond happy. His mother, the Yako parrot Chucky, and Tolga himself were together again, and joy filled the house once more. His mother would stay for 1 month, then return to Ankara for treatment. Tolga cooked meals and soups for his mother at home, talked with her, and tried to lift her spirits. When naughty little Saki saw the woman who had raised him, Aunt Isa, he flew around the house excitedly and talked non-stop out of pure happiness. Tolga's mother watched him with pride, her heart warmed by the parrot's joy. Everyone who heard that Tolga's mother had returned came to visit her. Tolga kindly warned each visitor, saying, "Please talk from a distance. You can only chat for 5 minutes," trying to protect his mother from infection. Each guest encouraged her, saying, "Mashallah, Isa, you look so well." Tolga also gave his mother hope by saying, "My mother will get even better." But the pain slowly began. Her arms ached, her body grew tired, and the nights became harder. Tolga stayed awake for his mother, sitting beside her bed and watching over her. One night, the parrot suddenly screamed loudly. Tolga rushed into the room and saw that his mother had lost consciousness. Her blood sugar had dropped dangerously low. He ran to the kitchen, grabbed a spoonful of honey, gently opened her mouth, and fed it to her. He was in complete panic. He immediately video-called his sister and explained the situation, his voice shaking. His sister said, "I'm coming right now," and hung up. Tolga injected his mother's insulin himself. After 30 minutes, his mother slowly regained consciousness, but she was soaked in sweat. Tolga and his sister quickly changed her clothes and covered her with a warm blanket. Tolga stayed awake until morning, praying to God over and over again. It was now 10 a.m. Tolga, exhausted, had fallen asleep while waiting beside his mother. Just then, he woke up to the voice he had missed more than anything in the world. "Tolga, wake up, my son. I prepared breakfast."
While Tolga was sitting and talking with his mother, she suddenly said, "Come here, Tolga. My son, this world is a world of death. I don't want to leave this life or the afterlife with worry in my heart. Let's get you married." Tolga immediately refused. "No, mother, I will not marry," he said, not wanting the topic to grow. His mother, now speaking more seriously, said, "Make peace with your brother, or I won't forgive you." For the first time, Tolga responded harshly. The anger he had buried inside finally spilled out. "I forgave him twice, but I won't forgive him again. Mother, please don't pressure me. Let's close this subject," he said. His mother didn't insist further, and the topic ended there. Even though he feared these might be his mother's final days, Tolga did not accept her possible last wish of make peace with his brother. Still, he believed he had made the right decision. He hated his brother and his father and never interacted with them at all. He had strong reasons to feel that way. reasons he knew were justified to the very end. Now his mother had to return to Ankara for treatment. Preparations were made. She would stay at his brother's house first, then go to the hospital to receive chemotherapy and radiation therapy. After treatment, she would again return to his brother's house. That was exactly why Tolga did not go to Ankara. He didn't even want to see his brother's face. His sister and brother-in-law would accompany their mother to Ankara. Tolga hid his pain and tears from his mother, but inside, he was quietly falling apart. When his mother got into the car and the journey began, Tolga did not run after her. But there was a tradition in his heart. He grabbed a bucket of water and poured it toward the road behind the car. It was a custom, and its meaning was beautiful. Go like water, return like water. It meant wishing someone a smooth and safe journey, like the flow of water. But at that moment, Tolga felt as if the water had poured through his heart, not the ground. Because the hardest days were about to begin. Tolga had grown completely exhausted, devastated, and helpless. His business was damaged, his customers had drifted away, and the payments he was owed never arrived. He tried to pull himself together, but everything only worsened. Most days, his girlfriend cooked for him. Some days he survived on nothing but bread and olives, and other times he simply boiled eggs alone. He washed his own clothes, cleaned the house, and did everything himself. He had no choice but to manage it all, even though he was struggling terribly. He had to work on his computer because he had no other way forward. But every time he opened the screen, his mind went straight to his mother. Just as he tried to focus, responsibilities piled on top of each other. Cooking, cleaning, and caring for his beloved Jocko parrot, Kaki. Even while taking care of the parrot, his mother's voice echoed in his heart. His father, an alcoholic man, was always drinking. Whenever Tolga saw him, he left the house immediately, because he hated his father too. Summer had arrived. The weather was extremely hot. Tolga worked at home all day, went outside for only 1 hour in the evenings, then rushed back home. His income had dried up, and his savings were shrinking. His friends constantly told him, "We're always here for you. If you need anything, just tell us." But Tolga was a man who never asked anyone for help. Not then, not ever. He was alone, but his love was loud. He was broken, but his hope was still breathing with his mother's name.
Tolga was exhausted now, as if he had suddenly aged 10 more years in an instant. Winter had arrived. The snow was falling so heavily that it hadn't snowed this much in the last 15 years. As Tolga stood at home watching the snow fall, his eyes kept turning toward the tree where his mother always used to sit and rest. His heart grew heavy with sadness. He made a video call to his mother and showed her the snow, because she also hadn't seen such a beautiful snowfall in 15 years. Tolga let her watch that unique moment through the screen, hoping to see even the smallest spark of joy in her eyes. In the evenings, Tolga would go outside and walk in the snow with his friends, but his mind was always with his mother. It had been 1 full month since he last saw her, because his mother was staying in Ankara at his brother's house. Tolga didn't know how to cook, so most days he would just make eggs instead of a proper meal to fill his stomach. No one ever asked him, "Do you have food at home?" Tolga would never accept food brought by others, except from his mother. But still, even being asked would have comforted him. Even his sister, who lived in the same city, never called to check on him. Tolga had already removed them all from his life years ago, but because of his mother's illness, he had to speak to them when necessary. Deep inside, he carried great resentment toward them. He hated them all except his mother and didn't even want to see their faces. One day, he learned that his mother had lost weight rapidly and needed to be hospitalized. Without wasting any time, he bought a plane ticket that very morning and boarded the flight at 5 a.m. At the airport, his brother, whom he disliked, picked him up and they drove toward the hospital together. Inside the car, there was deep silence. Neither Tolga spoke, nor his brother. When they arrived at the hospital, his mother was again on the 8th floor, but this time she had been placed in a different single room. Tolga entered the room, kissed his mother's hand, placed it gently on his forehead, and asked in a low voice, "How are you, Mom?" His mother looked at him and said, "Who are you?" Tolga froze. He was in shock. In that moment, he realized that her illness had progressed severely. He wanted to cry, but he didn't show it. After a short while, his mother remembered him and said with a hurt tone, "So you came after 1 month?" Tolga replied calmly, hiding his pain, "Mom, you were at home. I didn't come because I don't talk to my brother. But when I learned you were in the hospital, I came immediately." Her words of disappointment broke Tolga's heart deeply. He was truly hurt. His older sister was also in the room. Tolga called her outside into the corridor and asked with trembling emotion, "What happened to my mother?" His sister explained with tears in her eyes. She was losing her memory from time to time. The cancer has spread to her brain. There was metastasis. Tolga collapsed emotionally after hearing this, because now the illness was not only in her lungs, it had also spread to her brain, and this pushed Tolga into the darkest psychological state he had ever faced. But despite everything, he never let go of his mother's hand, because his strength came not from endurance. His strength came from love.
His mother frowned, scolding him with a sharp look. When she said, "Dying is so hard," Tolga could no longer hold himself together. Tears flooded his face. He hugged her and said, "Don't say that, Mom. What will I do without you?" Her pain had become unbearable. She had not slept for days. The injections and medicines no longer helped. Tolga immediately called a young imam friend with a pure heart and begged, "You have a clean heart. Please pray for my mother. Let her heal." Then he performed salah himself, praying while crying, making dua while crying. "Oh Allah, hear me, Ya Rabbim. Take from my life and give to my mother." A man who heard his cries sat beside him and said, "My son, don't rebel against Allah. This world is temporary. Everyone will taste death. You are a man of faith. We must be prepared. I will pray for your mother too." These words gave Tolga a moment of strength and rekindled hope inside him. He had now reached a place where money, power, status, and rank meant nothing. Only dua held real value. So he called relatives, friends, and family acquaintances, asking them to pray for his mother and for all the sick. Tolga accepted. But deep inside, he felt this would be the final transfer. When his mother was taken away on a stretcher, Tolga followed silently behind, crying without making a sound. Now his mother was in intensive care. He could no longer see her whenever he wanted, only 1 hour a day at scheduled visiting times. His sister, brother, and sister-in-law said, "There's no point waiting here. Let's go home." Tolga refused. "I'll sit downstairs in the cafeteria," he said, and left their side. His mother's hospital room had already been cleared and given to another patient. Tolga entered the room one last time and said sincerely to the new patient, "Get well soon." Then he walked away, disappearing into the snowy day, overwhelmed but silent in his grief. Tolga was waiting for 1300, pacing in restless anticipation, his heart burning to see his mother. He finally arrived at the intensive care unit. Visits were strictly controlled by security, allowed in the order of names read from a list, and each person was normally permitted to stay only 5 minutes. The guard checked the list and called out, "Tolga Han!" Tolga stepped forward. He was given protective clothing, mask, gown, shoe covers, and apron. The moment he entered the ICU room, he froze. His mother was lying there, motionless. Her hands, arms, legs, her entire body tied to the bed. He turned to the doctor, voice trembling. "Why is my mom tied like this?" The doctor answered gently, accustomed to sorrow, but still sincere. "She keeps removing her oxygen and cables. We had to restrain her for her own safety. Everything is for her well-being." Tolga swallowed hard and nodded silently, hiding the storm tearing him apart. Then his mother whispered in fear, panic rising in her eyes, "Tolga, take me out of here, please, my son." Tolga leaned closer, unable to touch her hands, but soothing her with a calm voice. "You'll be out in 3 days, Mom. They tied you because you kept pulling the cables. It's all for you. Please be patient." He fed her with his own hands and gave her water. He requested permission to stay 15 minutes instead of 5, saying, My mom loves eating from my hands. It wasn't a lie. It was longing. A quiet ache speaking in place of tears. When the time ended, he stepped back into the hallway where his sister was waiting. His eyes were shining with forced hope. "She's doing really well. God willing, she will be even better." His sister smiled with relief. She believed him. She felt hope again. Tolga knew he would now wait 23 more hours to see his mom again. He never truly left the hospital. Sometimes he walked through a shopping mall to distract his mind, ate something, then returned. The nights were endless torment. He whispered to himself, "Which floor should I sleep on tonight? The prayer room? The chairs? The bench again?" It was 3 a.m. when he finally fell asleep, but woke up 2 hours later for Fajr prayer. After that, sleep never returned. Every day, Tolga survived on only 2 to 3 hours of sleep. His mother was conscious then. She could speak, respond, react. But 2 days later, everything worsened. When he entered the ICU again, she was staring at the ceiling, murmuring, tracking something unseen. Her consciousness was gone. Tolga whispered, voice breaking, "Mom? Can't you hear me?" But she could no longer see him or hear him. She had stopped eating. Doctors were feeding her through IV nutrition. Tolga finally understood. With tears flooding silently, he kissed her cheek, then bent down and kissed her feet, crying like a wounded child. He couldn't walk, not from exhaustion, but grief. Then he leaned down and whispered the Shahada into her ear 3 times. "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh." Then he recited the Adhan into her ear, pleading through tears, "Mom, please say it with me." He repeated the Shahada again, 3 times. No answer. The security guard, watching from afar, was crying too, silent, powerless. Tolga stepped back, breath heavy like a lifetime, and left the ICU room. That was the final goodbye.
Tolga used to wait every day for 1 p.m. to see his mother. But now he no longer wanted to enter the intensive care room, because each time he saw her in that condition, his heart ached even more and his mind grew darker. That is why he asked that his older sister go in instead of him. Each time his sister entered the room, when she came out, she returned crying. Whenever Tolga saw her tears, he understood that his mother's condition was worsening, and the worry inside him kept growing. 3 days later, a phone call came from the hospital. The caller was the doctor, and the news was heavy. "We will intubate your mother. We wanted to inform you." Tolga cried uncontrollably when he heard this. But still, there was a small piece of hope inside him. While walking back and forth through the giant hospital corridors, he spoke to other patients' relatives. They comforted him by saying, "There are people who recovered and survived after intubation. Stay hopeful." Those words lit a new spark of hope in Tolga's heart. His mother remained intubated for 48 hours. One morning at 6 a.m., Tolga's phone rang. The caller was his older brother. Tolga woke up startled by the ringtone. His brother said, "The doctor called us and asked us to come to the hospital." He called twice, especially saying, "I didn't understand." When Tolga heard this, he already guessed what it meant. He was sitting on a chair, just woken up, without even washing his face, waiting for his brother to arrive. When his brother came, they went up together to the intensive care floor. The corridor was completely empty. No one was there. Only one security guard was standing. His brother said to the guard, "The doctor called us. That is why we are here." The guard went inside to call the doctor. At that moment, when several other security officers arrived, Tolga finally understood the entire truth. The doctor came out and said sadly to Tolga's brother, "Last night, your mother became very ill. Her heart stopped. We intervened. She started breathing again. But toward morning, her heart stopped once more." The doctor looked right, looked left, swallowed hard, and said with deep sorrow, "Unfortunately, we lost your mother." When Tolga heard those words, his world collapsed. He and his brother fell to the floor in tears. Security officers ran to them, gave them water, held their shoulders, and tried to lift them onto chairs for support. After crying for a while, they went downstairs. Tolga now had to call his sister and give her the news. He said, "Sister, we lost our mother." On the other end of the phone, there was only crying. No words, because some pain does not allow speech. 5 minutes later, his close friend called him. "Brother, how are you?" Tolga couldn't speak. His friend asked in panic, "What happened?" Tolga answered through sobs. "We received the news 5 minutes ago. My mother has passed away." After this, Tolga logged into his social media accounts and shared the sad news with these words, "Indeed, we belong to Allah, and indeed to Him we will return. My beloved mother, Ice Hatton, has passed away." His phone kept ringing again and again. Everyone was calling, worried and curious. But Tolga had no strength left to answer, so he put his phone on silent mode. Only 3 siblings remained at the hospital now: his sister, his brother, and Tolga. The funeral procedures had begun. The hospital was so large that even some staff members did not know where the morgue was. Tolga finally found the morgue and asked the officer, "Has my mother arrived?" The officer looked up and said softly, "No, she hasn't arrived yet. Please leave your phone number. We will call you when she comes." Tolga gave his number, thanked him, and walked away from the room. Then he looked one last time at the corridor behind him and whispered inside his heart, "This corridor was our final exit." And he walked away in tears, because now this waiting was not for healing anymore. It was the waiting of farewell.
Tolga was sitting in the hospital when his phone rang. It was a call from the morgue. "You can come down now." He slowly got up, exhausted and heartbroken, and headed downstairs again. The officer at the morgue asked him gently, "Do you want to see your mother one last time?" Tolga shook his head slightly. "No, I want to remember her smile from her last days, not her in that condition. I want her to live in my memories the way she was." The officer nodded in silence, understanding his pain. The paperwork was signed. Tolga received his mother Ice Hatton's body in the coffin. Then, she was placed into the funeral ambulance, and they began their journey back to their hometown. The news of her passing had already spread through the city. Condolence tents had been set up. Neighbors, relatives, and friends were waiting in a heavy silence. Tolga was driven by his brother's close friend in the first car. His brother, sister, and sister-in-law followed behind in the second car. His mother's coffin was traveling separately in the funeral ambulance. The 5-hour road felt like a lifetime in Tolga's heart. Finally, Tolga arrived in front of their home. The crowd rushed toward him like a wave. Everyone hugged him and cried. Tolga could no longer hold it inside. His silent pain turned into loud sobs. He broke down in tears, shaking with grief. He accepted condolences, but he could not speak a single word. Because his voice was gone, only his love and sorrow remained. Morning came. At 10 a.m., Tolga went back down to the morgue to complete the final procedures. The funeral ambulance then brought his mother's coffin to the front of the house. The coffin was carefully lifted out of the vehicle by many hands and placed onto the musala table prepared outside. It was time for forgiveness. Those who knew her will remember, she never withheld her greetings. She did good as much as she could, respected the elders, and showed compassion to the young. Now the words of this world have fallen silent, and her book of deeds has closed. What remains behind her are only prayers, charity, and beautiful testimonies. Today she lies here, tomorrow it will be us. So let us keep our hearts pure, forgive one another, and be among those who turn toward Allah. May Allah grant mercy upon our Aunt Ice, and make her place in paradise. And may He make us among those who are remembered with goodness after we pass. Ameen, O Lord of the worlds.
Tolga and his family set off toward the mosque where his mother's funeral prayer would be performed. The mosque courtyard and interior were filled with people. One by one, everyone approached them, offering condolences, embracing them, and praying for strength. The air was cold, but an even colder truth weighed on Tolga's heart. This was a farewell he could never undo. When it was time for prayer, the imam gave instructions. The congregation formed rows, standing shoulder to shoulder in orderly lines. The coffin rested at the front, placed on the musala stone. Tolga was now facing the painful reality that he was sending his mother off forever. His heart trembled, even if he stood still. After leading the funeral prayer, The imam turned toward the congregation and asked, "O community, how did you know our Aunt Ice?" The voices rose together. "We knew her as a good person." The imam asked again, "Do you forgive her and grant your rights as halal?" Again, the response echoed strongly, "We forgive her. Our rights are halal." The coffin was then lifted onto shoulders with prayers and solemn murmurs, and gently placed into the funeral ambulance. The final journey had begun. At the cemetery, a deep grave had already been prepared, silently waiting for them. The scent of earth made the moment heavier. Tolga and his brother descended into the grave together. Carefully, they placed their mother's shrouded body inside. At that moment, Tolga's strength finally collapsed, not physically, but emotionally. His tears could no longer be hidden. The imam instructed, "Cover her with soil." One by one, the congregation shoveled soil into the grave. Each sound felt like another crack in Tolga's soul. He stood aside, crying quietly, unable to speak. His heart was louder than any words could ever be. Once the burial was complete, the guests slowly began to leave. Each person shook Tolga's hand, saying, "May her place be paradise," before walking away. After a while, only Tolga and his 4 closest friends remained. Tolga looked at them with tired, emotional eyes and said, "If we have 1 hour, I want to sit by her grave for 1 hour." His friends nodded silently, understanding him without a need for explanation. Tolga walked to the grave alone. According to a belief he held deeply, a soul draws strength from loved ones while answering the questioning angels. He whispered in his heart, "Let her take strength from me while answering them." He opened his hands toward the sky. For 1 hour, he prayed, waited, remembered, and loved. When the hour ended, his friends drove him home. Before leaving, each of them repeated the same promise. "If you need anything, call us. We're always here." Tolga thanked them, because support is sometimes simply presence. When he stepped inside the house, silence greeted him. The house was not empty. It was full of memories. Yet Tolga still could not accept his mother's passing. For a while, his mind imagined her still lying in the hospital bed. Because grief sometimes refuses reality. Because love makes disbelief human. He sat in the corner of the room, looked at the place where his mother used to rest, and whispered, "The house is so quiet, something is missing." And in that silence, he did not mourn her absence. He honored the greatness of her existence.
Tolga lives alone, silenced by mother's loss. Withdrawn, house echoes heavy melancholic quiet. Only companion is Kaki, African gray parrot, cherished gift from mother. Last warm voice, living echo of love and home. Every day, Tolga whispers, "I don't want to live anymore." Not surrender, aching longing for lost. Nightly, to mother, "Just a little longer, Mom. I'm coming soon. Wait for me." Doctor concerned, suggests, "Tolga, psychiatric hospital. Can't carry pain alone." Tolga refuses. Always men never asking help, even breathless. Heartbreak wall between him and world, mourns silently. Remains quiet grief, cherished memories, Kaki's voice. In mother's corner, Tolga admits, "I am Tolga. So tired. Hope you understand." December 27th, 2025, 1:08 a.m. Shares message. Hug loved ones before tomorrow. Stay away unloved. Love be loved. Time short. Ends with prayer. I ask Allah health first, then faith, abundance.